All right, back. It is episode 37 of Heroes Live. My name is T, also known as, and we've here Nick Cote. How you doing, Nick?
Good. Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. Now, first off, I think Donald Trump may have just told me to long Bitcoin. Still looking into that.
Right now.
He's on the stimulus. Go big. So something like that. So dude's just putting it out there today, and got a few flowing into the YouTube, so we'll just let that populate. I actually tweaked my neck at the gym this morning, tweaked my back, so I look like robotic, and I'm just like, I just have a few extra cuss words. That's why, and I'm all chopped up on a muscle relaxant and all that shit. So, happy Friday, baby.
Full disclaimer.
Yeah, full disclaimer.
Correct.
Now, big bullish candle on Bitcoin the last year or so. So today's about how do we track this bull? Is it a bull? Confirmed? If not, when? Questions like that. The daily trend actually did just go bullish last night as far as putting in a low, getting a high, getting a higher low, and then putting in a higher high. So really exciting potential here, and some nice turnarounds and right around their RLZ bottoms. I'm not rushing this candle today, but we're going to talk. Let's dive into the screen share, and then we're going to talk today mostly about this latest little push in the market for all these coins.
What does it mean?
First and foremost, we are at resistance. So this has been a really nice push. You guys follow me on Twitter, you know this. I've been having some pretty good runs. Audio issue. Okay, let's double check that. Let's get this squared away. Test the gain. Okay, how are we doing now? Would you say this is a trap? Well, Iman, that's exactly the question that we're going to talk about today. And we can never say for sure. I don't really like the word trap necessarily. And I know what you mean because I use that word all the time. But it implies that, that there's some greater purpose to today's movement. The fact is prices moved up. So a trap would really be like if you long resistance and then it doesn't break through, was that a trap or was that just a bad entry? That's the distinction I guess I would make there. Okay, we're better now. Okay, good. Thanks, guys. So really we've moved up to this resistance. We are volume low. Okay, let me check that. Strange. Gain is up full on my side. Jono, can you do anything there on your end?
Yep, sounds good.
No, Iman is saying it's a little low for his liking. I'm wondering if we can boost it anyway. All right, I can see, maybe I can speak a little more directly in here. Okay, perfect. So we are going to get back on track here. Now, the price has basically moved up to 11,000, which is great. That's a big resistance level for obvious reasons. That's a nice round number. But it's also the previous highs from September 18th, right around 11,100. And old resistance. I mean, we've got a key level here, and we're breaking out of this wick high downtrend. So, I mean, we're in a really hot spot right now. Now, here's a few ideas that I have drawn up, because you guys know how I trade. I mean, I'm not obviously waking up going, oh yeah, we're bullish, and I'm going to go buy 11,000 here. I just can't trade that way. I will trade on a pullback. So whatever that pullback is, do we break through, pull back here? Do we pull back down here, kind of fake it out, get that 382 tap, the pump chaser, confluent with this little breakout point? So there's a few different things I'm looking at if we're bullish. Now, my high time frame bias, as you guys know, has been caution, has been fairly tethered, bit of a for a bit. So I've been pretty flat for a little while, and this move up here is the first chance I've had to look at this the different way and say, oh, look at that. We might actually be going up for a bit, which is great. Love that. So pullbacks to 382, I'm long. Breakthrough, pullback to this resistance, I'm long. And that's for sure on my spot account, getting back in. And then, we'll just see like futures. I'm actually doing a little more lower time frame scalpy stuff lately. If you guys have noticed on my Twitter, doing some theta short, paid off really nice this week. Neo short a couple weeks ago, and what was the other one? ZIL. So did get stopped on a short on Bitcoin yesterday, and I had something like this up into this little short RZ, like on a much smaller time frame, and I was kind of zooming in, thinking like, look, if we get off these lows up into here, this is an area where I want to get short in case we break out the bottom here, and I didn't. I did get short, and I got stopped out. So you take a hit and you move on. And the key to trading, guys, is just making sure that those hits are like a third or a quarter the size or less of your wins when you get a winning trade. And so at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So I'm excited about this push up. We got Square buying Bitcoin. They put 1% of their assets into Bitcoin, and they bought 4,709 Bitcoin. And so their average entry, interestingly enough, I just calculated this like an hour ago, is 10,617. So where is that on the chart? Just for fun, let's see where they got long on Bitcoin. 10,600.
Pretty much mid-range.
Yeah, right here. I mean, they bought the perfect dip if they bought yesterday, but I'm sure that they've been averaging in over the last little while. So what I posed on Twitter recently, which I think is an interesting question, what percentage, and we should almost make this like a little guess contest and have a little fun with it, if there's a way we could find out, but what percentage this time next year of their assets will be in Bitcoin if they didn't buy any more? Right? So if Bitcoin doubles or triples or whatever, like how high Bitcoin goes up, their overall exposure to it in their company will be higher than 1%, presumably. I wonder how high. And how will that impact the other major companies in the world that are like looking at that going, man, we should buy some Bitcoin, put it on the books. So that's an interesting story. And I definitely think it has potential because it's the second major one this year, right? We got what's it called? Micro something or other. Is that one, John? Nick? Good chat. Forget about that other company, but they put in a bunch of Bitcoin this year, like 400 million. And then, God, guys, I'm off. My neck is so fucked. So for those of you guys who just got here, I tweaked my neck and my back at the gym this morning. So I'm not going to try to hide it. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, can't even find words right now. I'm in a whole bundle of pain trying to sit up. MicroStrategy, Jonesy. I love you, man. Appreciate you, Jonesy. Thank you. So MicroStrategy, now Square. So we're going to see.
I think we're probably.
Did you lose me?
No, you're there.
Oh, anyways, yeah. Okay, you just flipped the screens. Yeah, MicroStrategy, Square, and so we've got a bit of a trend here. And so the speculation is like not about when or if someone else, but it's be who. Yeah. So
that's how much.
And how much? And then will that open a floodgate and there'll be FOMO? And so
I think
really,
we'll see a conservative amounts like these 1 to 3%, especially at the end of the day with public companies, it has to be sold to the board. It's not just like an executive decision, top down. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's an exciting thought and trend. I mean, there's no doubt that, you don't have to be a Bitcoin maxi or, crypto guy to realize that there's some troubling stuff going on with the US dollar and inflation and all that stuff. So there are, there are going to be a lot of people around the world thinking of ways to hedge against that. And Bitcoin obviously stands out as a huge and obvious way to do that. And so you see this kind of money moving into it. I mean, it's the floodgates, baby. It's the shit that we've been living for. I can't help but get a little excited about that, despite, some of the more bearish trends that I was seeing in the past few weeks, and the potential for, the Mt. Gox distribution that I think could possibly load the FUD cannon, the end of year tax, the election crap, all those things that I was thinking in my head is going to maybe squeeze out the market for a bit. This trend is exciting, and it's really what we've been waiting for since I got in. So pretty fired up about that. Now, pretty nasty news out of Esprit and Brie. Did you want to touch on that a little bit, Nick? We had a minting, basically a rug pull via minting. Really gross.
Very weird timing though. You know, Brie went up to around $40. I guess the devs, they minted 50,000 tokens on Esprit, transferred it over to Brie and market dumped. At the same, that normally wouldn't have been a complete death sentence, but at the same time, all the socials got deleted as well. So that's the Telegram, the Twitter, the Discord, etc. So nobody had any clue what was going on. So what did people do? They just panic dumped themselves, right? So it's kind of just a negative feedback loop what happened there, and a real shame. It was a solid project. There's a lot of a lot of capital locked up in that one. So let's see what happens. I know that there's some actions being taken on in the background right now to try and find these funds and get them redistributed to everybody. So hopefully we can get some recourse there. But yes, sad state of affairs. There's always a new rug every week, it seems.
Yeah, it's really gross. That one, Jesus. Stefan, I'm sorry. I love you, brother. One of my buddies is in here in the chat, and he's one of the victims of that. And, heart goes out to you guys, because it's one thing, I mean, they had a staking, there's locking. I mean, it's a really gross thing. I wasn't too familiar with it, but a couple of close buddies of mine were fairly heavily invested in that one. And, putting faith in that network, staking stuff, and, not a good day for that. So, but wanted to touch on that because it's one of the bigger rugs. I think some things just rug on day one. Other things, this one had gone mainnet. Anyways. So the good news is there is a couple community members, a handful of them, that are putting together, potential, looking at ideas for forks, redistributions, keep the project going, decentralized, all that.
A lot of community takeovers these days.
Yeah. So there's possibility. I mean, SushiSwap, I don't know how much you can compare the two, but I mean, there was a little bailout that happened there. So you never know. And I'm holding out hope for these guys, because that's just nasty shit. You don't want to see that. Now, here's one that I've got up on the screen because it's actually looking pretty good today. And I guess I should preface this with altcoins in general. We've got Ethereum, Bitcoin. Now, you may know, I see this gap down here, and I've been talking about that for a little while, and I don't think it's off the table. But what I see that's a little bit more important, because it's all about one level at a time. You don't want to have some gap somewhere and just stop trading for months until it hits, if it ever does. And right now what I see is a move up from the key support area. Now, I was a little concerned with this because there wasn't really too much buy volume to support it, to say, hey, I'm a bottom, all these guys are coming in to support. But really what we got now is a pull back to that key support right off the 786. The buy volume is picking up here. Sell volume kind of went away. I mean, there was an opportunity here for the bears to step in and say, yeah, dump it. And they didn't show up. There's no bears here. All the volume here on the sell side was pretty low. And then as you can see, the bulls kind of wake up right here, and they're just picking up steam. So as we get this bullish confirmation of market structure here, I'll be watching ETH BTC. This is a much bigger level, obviously, up here for a larger wave. I mean, if we get that confirmation, I'll be looking full range here for something as far as levels at a time, right up near the highs, which would be really nice. For now, we are stuck in a smaller range, and lots of different altcoins are down in their RLZs looking primed, and we're just kind of playing into this range here. So one level at a time always. But with that in mind, I started looking at different altcoins, and the some that are really on my radar. One from earlier summer, we talked about this one, and that's TrustSwap. Now, TrustSwap has had a wild ride this summer from 0.5 cent pre-sale up almost 300, more than 300x to its highs around 160. And this was a really good example of a trend reversal here. We have sort of an M-top rollover, on bearish divergence, breakdown, retest, and go. And it's just been washed out. And we thought maybe off this 55 cent level, we would get a bounce up in structure. And we actually did get all that bullish market structure and everything. There just wasn't enough bullish support to carry it on. And I guess if you want to, first of all, even when you have location, divergence, market structure, it's just not a guarantee. But when you put all those three together, you get pretty good probabilities. In this case, it didn't work out. You could maybe have read into the lack of volume. So after these kinds of confirmations, there just wasn't a whole ton of buying like there was even up here and coming down. But here we are off the 88.6 to a T, and we're just about to put in what could be the first bullish market structure we've seen since back up at 60 cents. So I've got swap on my radar down here. And if we zoom in, I'll be looking at something, as always, like this, where we just move up, get that confirmation. That's your higher high. Okay, we're back into a little bull trend here on the 4 hour. Then how can I get in? Well, I'll be buying the next dip and going wherever that is. So I would like to trade this, get my bag back, and start speculating on SushiSwap, because I still think that that's going to be a really solid DeFi project.
Yeah, I think a lot of the altcoins look very similar to that right now. It's kind of, I'm not totally sold on these bottoms just yet, to be honest. Even like look at some of these charts here. Comp, bearish throwback right now. It's just very interesting to see the why. Like there's so many different alts at the same market caps, but the market structures, almost inverted. You have some that have broken the bearish throwbacks, they're retesting it to see support, and some that have, they're lagging still. So, again, comp is just this perfect example, right? Breaks down, retesting it, little rejection, but if it can support here around 110, could have the momentum to move back up to that 125 level. But again, I like using the index products. It came very close to getting that support touch, and now we've kind of come back up to retest the support that we broke down from. So I'm not 100% convinced yet. You know me, I like waiting to see prices flip former resistances back to support and catch the bulk of the move. So waiting for a lot of that stuff to see right now. Same thing, like look at Uniswap. Look at that, like literally not redrawing this stuff, guys. These levels are just so well respected, right? Huge 4 hour support level on the Uniswap perp, and getting a little bit of rejection there, just still unconfirmed. But what would be the most bullish thing? Well, if this 15.5 level can flip back to support, I think we would have enough momentum to take a real stab up here. And I don't like seeing this. Some hidden bear divergence there on the Stoke momentum. But if you're bullish, it's going to come do something like this, and then you're going to have this high velocity move off that higher low. Generally, is what you get. So that's your confirmation on the entry. Your stop is probably below either this breakout candle here of this range, or if you really want to be bold, you can use those range lows. But this looks pretty good. That's what I'm be expecting off that.
Yeah. Now, to preface all this, I mean, we should talk about, we have talked about this, like bottoms take a while to come in. So this impulse off the bottom is very good looking. It's what you want to see, these 20, 40% bounces we're seeing in some alts today. Really nice stuff. It's just, if you just look at like a Binance leaderboard, we always talk about like when you're watching leaderboards, CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, leaderboard, whatever you want to see, you're just going to see these huge percentages. You're saying, oh, it's a bull market, we're back. But when you get into the chart, you can see, you want to see W's. You want to see like bottoms come in. So like if we get a quick flip over here back, we'll see ADA. So this is what I'm watching on ADA, and these take a while. And so I'm not like worried today. Obviously, it'd be nice if I had a 40% bagger today that I could say, look at that. But it's just not how I trade. So when we get back above this level, you can say, oh, okay, we're coming down. We're making lower lows. We're making lower highs. Oh, look at that. We made a high. We made a higher low. Okay, now we have a higher high if we break back above this level. Okay, so then you can get, then I'll be getting more aggressive. I'll be taking my dry powder. I'll be saying, okay, I'm going to start speculating on all these dips until we reverse even that trend. So maybe, if we end up going back down again. Rushing in on the first green day is a great way to end up selling the next dip. If you're trying to like chase trade, and that's why it's so important. We always talk about having a plan and using charts. I mean, that's why people say, well, I invest in fundamentals. Investing is different. If you want to just park some bids and DCA, all that stuff, find your projects, that's great. Do that. But if you're trading, you really need to have a chart, and with that chart, you got to have a plan. So we have reached location. We've got some bullish divergence, waiting on that market structure. And if it comes, it's going to be pretty obvious. It's going to close above this level. And then I'm going to have the tool that I love that you guys know well. And wherever that high goes in, that's where I'll drag my fib up to. And then down here, or even if it's going to be a high volume. So there's not a ton of volume here, but if we broke out on really high volume, I might even fire up the old pump chaser and start getting a little more aggressive with my fibs. And then I'm buying 382s, 0.5s, trying to catch this retest here. Now, with that said, look at this Dixie chart. The US dollar, probably on the speculation of these multi-trillion-dollar relief packages, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Can't imagine that's bullish for the US dollar, even though, as you've said, that inflation could take months or even years to play into the actual value. But on speculation, traders are going to dump something when governments talk about printing trillions of them. It just seems like a dilution move. So we're getting that same inverse thing, right? Bitcoin, big green day. Dixie, big red day. Which one's driving the bus? I don't know.
The US
I would.
dollar.
Which one?
The US dollar is always in the bus driver's seat.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I would speculate that the US dollar is the mover of mountains around here. But the point is, this is really good news for people who are in stocks and everything that trades against USD. And if you look at this, I mean, this downtrend channel is just pretty standard price action. It's just been down, it's up, it's down. So are we heading to the midline? And is that going to be the release of that relief package, which I imagine they'll have to reach because it doesn't seem like it's an option to just not bail some people out of, like the people and the smaller businesses, I imagine, are suffering a lot right now. So
it's not even a bailout. Like, it's just kicking the can down the road. Look at the municipality bankruptcies. Like, literally, America, cities and towns are about to go bankrupt. Same thing here in Canada and stuff. Like, the fallout from this hasn't even really started, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, and well, that's again going back to some of those higher time frames. Like, I just think, and this is why I've been kind of maintaining my bearish stance. Not even really bearish. Bearish always makes it sound like you want something to go down. It's more just like cautious. I'm not in a rush to put my hard-earned money at risk in the market until I see a few things. And one of those reasons is some of this FUD cannon shit that I just see. A lot of uncertainty around the election, a lot of uncertainty around what you just talked about. So, just that theme. Now, always in the mood for a bull market and a bull rally. So we will be keeping an eye on it. Now, somebody just asked about a triple top on Ethereum. Now, I would have to know what time frame you are talking about. We're going to just take a quick. Yeah, I was going to say. So on the higher time frame, if anything, I'm going to see a little bit of a downtrend here. Let's zoom in to the 4-hour. And yeah, I mean, we've hit some highs. Now, here's the thing about double bottoms and double tops. So we'll just do a quick mini lesson because this is one that when I figured it out made a lot more sense to me. So for a double top, ideally you want to see the right shoulder or the right side of it lower. So that implies the weakness. You then need to see the price break down below that midline. Okay, so this, for example, that's not a double top, right? That's a potential double top, a potential market structure fail, but it doesn't confirm until it breaks below. And then sometimes it'll bounce up and give you that entry. Sometimes it'll squeeze up into that short RLZ, which is what I like to short. And other times it will just plow right through. Hashtag October 2018, the death spiral from 6K, right? So keeping that in mind, definitely see some highs here and prices struggling to get above them. And that could fail, but it wouldn't really be like a triple top mega fail kind of thing until you get below that level. So we could stop here, we could trend down, and people will say, well, that's a double top, it's a triple top. It's not confirmed until and only if we then broke here. Mm-hmm. And yes, that would be quite bearish. So just a little mini lesson on that kind of stuff as far as terminology goes. You want to wait for confirmations if you're trading that now. Doesn't mean you have to wait to get all the way down here if you want to be bearish, or if you're thinking it looks weak.
Don't get
all this stuff is it's all fractally, right? So I mean, arguably, if I'm scalping right now, now I wouldn't necessarily rush in and short this. Certainly not looking at that right this minute. We've got quite a bit of buy volume coming in. The bears are out in force, or excuse me, the bulls are out in force, showing their colors. But you're probably going to find some people that are looking at this and saying, oh, look at that. We had a high. We failed to make a higher high. And now we've got a breakdown. So they're going to be looking up here and then
I think
let's go.
Some fundamental news that I read before we started our stream today was that there's another testnet server being launched on Monday. So I'm going to be for ETH 2.0. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. The devs they're still standing by that November launch. It's about a month away. But
and let's not sleep on the significance of that, because here's a thought too. When you have
it's going to lock up so much supply.
It's going to lock up a lot of supply. And I mean, if you just look, it's going to be a little gross because of the ink. I guess I could take that off for this quick mention, but like this is really gross looking. I mean, this had every reason to dump. The buy volume stayed the highest, so there was no major sell volume to really take over. But I'm if anything, on a purely technical level, I'm actually surprised this held up so well. So then I have to ask myself why, right? Why is this looking so toppy and so gross? And the ink's going to come back here, but you come across this level, you had the bearish retest. I mean, and it hasn't failed. So you got to ask yourself why. Let's not sleep on the significance of Ethereum 2.0 looming on November. Haven't heard too much about it. It's not in the news at all, but it is there. It's kind of a known catalyst. And I would speculate that that is why this key support is holding up so well. And that's actually making me feel really bullish on Ethereum in that sense, because it should have dumped here. Like if there wasn't something like that coming up purely on technicals, it had every reason to roll over, and it hasn't. So we should not sleep on the significance of that.
Yeah, and that's why we never say, like, when we did our stream on Wednesday, everything was looking pretty fucking grimly. But that's why we don't say shorting, don't short support, don't long resistance, because you get like things like this, right? The next day, sure enough, boom, 10%. There you go.
Yeah, and now you're underwater, and the worst part is you might have had the right idea on the high time frame. I mean, maybe this will roll over, but that was a terrible entry. Exactly. But if you really want to, draw this up, and you're gonna often get. I mean, it's incredible to me now that I've been trading these for about a year, how often you get these moves up, even if you're right. So if you're right and you're like, oh, this is super bearish, I'm going to go short. You don't have to short it on the day that maybe you're urging to, like you feel that in your gut, right? You're like, oh, I knew it. We're definitely, just be disciplined, because once in a while it may run without you, but 90% of the time it seems like you're just going to get the squeeze up, maybe sweep these highs and then go. So I'm not calling a short. Certainly not ready to short this one, because I do see volume changing hands here, and I've got my dry powder exposure. I'm not too exposed to this. So what I'm actually looking for into the weekend and through next week is how to attack the bull. I'm ready to play the bull, but I'm not going to chase these resistances. As I mentioned, there is a tactful way to go about it, and I think some people might look at this and they'd be fearful. They'd say, well, but oh God, what is that? They'd say, but sir, what if it nukes without you? And it might. These are very hopeful things. Like the idea being, let's go to the 12-hour. That's what I drew them on. These are drawn up as like, oh yeah, it'll just poke through politely, and then it'll come pick me up nicely, and then it'll take off. That to me seems a little bit unlikely. This is a pretty huge level. If we break through, it'll probably be pretty exuberant. It might run as high as, we might just get a nuke. I have to be willing to allow that to happen and not be on board. If I'm not willing to do that, I will get caught buying a lot of resistance in my life, and on probabilities and on higher, add all those up, and it's probably not going to age too well. So I'm fully willing to let this run off without me. It'll sting a little bit. I'll be like, oh shit, that would have been a great long. But it will roll over, come back, pull back, give me that 382. I will find that if I need it. And that's what I'm looking for right now. So we break through. I'm going to long right around here. I'll be looking for longs. If we pull back here, which I actually think is not too unlikely, then probably going to scoop up a long opportunity here. And those are the next two trades I'm looking at. Adding exposure on the dip from this little breakout for sure, wherever that is.
Yeah, like until we break that 11.4.
You're staying off. Yeah, and that's fair. It's again fundamentally into the end of the year. I'm not too in a rush to make any big decisions. I guess that's a worthy mention, is that there is a time to play big in a market and there's a time to play small. And right now, because we're in sort of a transition state where it's like, oh, we're bearish, we're bullish, we're bearish, we're bullish. There's no clear trend. I certainly think the daily just confirmed. It's not an opinion, it's just a fact. We just closed up here. That's a new high from this little move here. So we are in an uptrend. It's not a rip-roaring uptrend, but it's beginning one. And so I've got to play that, and that means buy the dip for me until further notice on the daily.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I guess to my point about playing small, where was I going here? Dominance. I don't need to go all in with my dry powder, because all those other things I mentioned earlier are still in play for the end of the year. But I certainly want some exposure to it, and I can dollar cost average in if if it ends up continuing to trend up. There's going to be lots of dips, as trends do. Or, it's like, oh, fuck you, and it rolls over. Well, I went small, and I can either hold that spot exposure because ultimately I'm really bullish in Bitcoin, or I can find a nice bounce to get out. So playing small and then, hey, if we're in a rip-roaring bull trend, which we were for a lot of alts this summer, I mean, that shit's fun as hell because you just grab that pump chaser fib, you get that 382, and you can pretty confidently take some size and, number go up. So I still think it's a play small season right now until further notice. And as you can see, Bitcoin dominance spiked. This is a little squiggly I put on there. I am speculating that it will likely trend up for a little while after this really long 124-day downtrend. So I could see this thing trending up. Now, I did find it interesting. I don't know if you paid attention to this, Nick. We didn't really talk about it in the lab, but with all those alts washing out, going down, the dominance didn't even go up that much. What the hell is that all about?
Well, Bitcoin didn't really move either.
Yeah, I guess so. But that's the thing, right? Bitcoin stayed fairly balanced, and the altcoins, for the most part, just completely washed out, and yet dominance.
That's because a lot of like the altcoins that died the most, the DeFi coins, weren't big, right? The DeFi space only hit 15 billion, which was like, I think like 3 to 4% of market cap. So if 3 to 4% of that loses 80% of the value, it's just not a big move. So if you look with that in mind, Bitcoin dominance, it actually lines up pretty well.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I was surprised. I was thinking about it this morning. I thought, that's interesting with all the carnage we've seen across that. But you're right. I think the hottest names were actually pretty small caps overall.
Very small caps.
And then you've got ETH. ETH moves like a little bit, like this move today is no doubt responsible for this pullback here. So yeah, Ethereum is certainly. I mean, Ethereum's like 12%. I think actually I have an ETH. So let's go check out the ETH dominance. I haven't looked at that one in a while because it's been kind of cooled off. So I figured it's less exciting.
It's very similar to ETH BTC. Oh, it is ETH BTC.
Yeah. Well, it's like the inversion. But here's your ETH dominance chart, and yeah, actually you can see here the writing was on the wall. Apparently, I thought that back in September we'd probably see ETH dominance cool off, and so far kind of happening. We'll see how much it cools off. I don't think it needs to go any lower based on what we just saw in the ETH BTC chart. But let's take a look back here, maybe around election time. This is a weekly chart, actually, so this will probably take a while. This is like January. But I would expect, this is actually, here, let's take this off for a sec. I want to keep that on because I love a good squiggly. Now, let's take a look at what a 382 looks like as far as like, pre what's it called, ETH 2.0 launch. So you have the big breakout this summer. We've now pulled back. We are parked in the pump chaser zone if you just mark from the last big impulse up. Obviously, you could draw this up from here. And look at that. You'd still have the 382. So it kind of works. That's what I love about fibs. They kind of tell you a story no matter how. But the most correct way would be this entire range. And there your 382 tap. So this is a pretty standard pullback as far as ETH dominance goes. And as Nick said, we have the Ethereum 2.0 coming up pretty soon. So this is going to be one to watch, and it's going to be an exciting continuation. I have no doubt in my mind that we will see ETH dominance back up here at some point early to mid next year at the very latest, possibly much sooner. So that's pretty exciting. For the ETH holders in the house.
I think we should quickly take a look at the SPX.
Please do, yeah. Take over, get into some legacy stuff. I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, so we've been pretty spot on this one, calling the support down at 3230. Now it formed this really nice inverted head and shoulders pattern that we went over on Wednesday, put out on our Twitter. It's actually just come into our target here, this key little resistance level. This is a 4-hour chart. Again, there's not a lot of price history here. But this was the resolution target for this move. So what are you expecting now? Well, it's obviously going to be really news catalyst dependent on, it's actually Friday. There's only 2 hours left till close. I'm not sure if we'll see a stimulus deal into close, but regardless, here we are at resistance. If this is still bullish, we could pull back to 34.30. And if we see support there, I guess I'll draw a squiggly. That would confirm to me that this little swing that we're seeing now still had some legs in it. So what are you going to do? So we've come up to resistance. What do you do next, guys? You just draw that former resistance level, right? Try and make it as straight as possible here. And now we're expecting, a little cool off. You never want to be longing into this stuff, right? So you've missed the majority of the move already. So just wait. If it'll come back down, if it supports off this will just be a confirmation of momentum. Again, it's Friday, so we're not going to have this open again until Sunday afternoon. But into next week, if we do see something like this, right, a little bounce off resistance, you'd be targeting these highs here around 35.60, right? So again, but if we fail here, I'll be expecting a retest of support. So that's kind of what we're looking on for S&P. Obviously, stocks going up is so correlated with crypto and Bitcoin right now. This would be crypto going up, and this is your Ethereum is triple topped, Bitcoin is double topped at this 11.1 resistance, and you'd be expecting a retest of that. So that's what I'm looking at there. Really good. Again, just really love the structure. So keeping in mind of this inverted head and shoulders. So again,
yeah, that looks really clean.
It does. And I've identified another coin in crypto. I posted it yesterday. So then, obviously it broke here, then resolved up there. So that's how you trade those patterns. But I found another one. Look at this. Atom 4 hour. It's a little messier on the right hand shoulder. It's actually like you would rather see it going up versus down on the right shoulder, like the S&P, but it's still there regardless. So, again, a little inverted head and shoulders here. This is going to be the key resistance level to break, right? So we would need to see this come here, and then the actual resolution of this pattern would be a nice 17% move. So that's the trade that I'm waiting for. I'll be setting some alarms on this one, and put it on your watch list. I think it's going to be a great move there, regardless, and it's really good invalidation, easy invalidation. Sorry, off this. So if we move, below here. Wow, what a great level. See that? Actually, I'm going to pull it off here because it's actually a Wyckoff throwback as well. It's actually a huge level. Wow. This is a really big level on the intraday. If it loses this, oof. Anyways, you can see here, nice tight invalidation here. So if we lose these lows kind of around like the 4.45 level, I would say this was invalidated, probably going to drift back down, minimum 4.3. If that breaks, probably lose these lows here and retrace all the way back down 3.1. But again, this is a bullish chart pattern right now. So I'm leaning bull on this one short term, unless we break these lows here. I'm not in a position on this one. I only identified this a little bit late, so that's why I'm waiting now for this expansionary move. If we get it, I'm not really interested too much in shorting a breakdown here. So yeah, I'm mainly looking for the long side of those stuff right now. And then quickly, Uniswap itself, the Uni one, really fantastic level here. I think we called this one, bounce around 2.5, and then bounce.
You nailed that thing.
I did.
Jesus, you called me that day. You're like, I think I just longed the bottom on Uni. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't hold it up to my ultimate target here, but still a fantastic entry, a great trade. And now what are we looking for? Well, this is a really clean market structure, isn't it? This was all this was kind of untested, right? So it's really interesting to see that we're getting this price reaction. So if we do lose these lows here, like that 3.19 level, I would expect this to come back down to 2.99. I think it would be if this is bullish, that's going to be your buy entry, right? And that could be the one you'd want to be holding. And why is that? Because it's confirming the momentum. You've retraced it. So you'd be looking for something, like this, and then to move back up, take these highs here, around like, what is that? 4.5, 4.2. And then ultimately this is your main consolidation block up here, right? 4.5 to 5.5. I would imagine if we tagged back into this range, we would probably do a little bit of ranging for a little bit, some reaccumulation, right? So the idea is that if this is a Wyckoff, new start of a Wyckoff trend, you're going to have your initial breakout, right? You're going to have your markup. This is your markup right here, this right here, right? And then this would be your reaccumulation phase right here. And then if it were to continue going, that would be your next markup, right? So a break of this high here would trigger this expansion trade up to here. So you'd be longing 5.5 up to 7.5. But right now, again, we're going to be waiting to see how price reacts here at this 2.9 level. If you're not long, don't chase this. There's no need. Again, we're so close to resistance, right? And that, you also have some, a little bit of a bear momentum, hidden bear div on that, right? Higher highs on this, higher highs here, lower highs here. So keeping an eye on that makes sense.
It's a tough bet. It's a tough bet to take longs when you're in a downtrend like this, and then you wake up and see 20, 30, 40% green day. There's for me, like, there's just nothing I can do to the long side at that point. If we're in a rip roaring bull trend, it's a totally different story, and I see things moving up, and I can be a little more aggressive. But we're still in that downtrend for altcoins, and so when you get these bounces, the first thing you have to think is, if you were long, selling, like exiting on these nice 20, 30, like I know a few traders who were talking about, long everything the other day. In fact, I'm going to have one of them on stream pretty soon. And I want to find out, what he saw, because on the lower time frames, there was definitely some little setups coming in, some 4 hours and bullish divergences. Now I see you've got WIFI up there.
Yeah, this is another one.
So we did have a request about that. Yeah, really nice tag there. And without even drawing it up on your screen, I can see that's in the RLZ.
Exactly.
What do you see there? I know you don't have volume on yours, but I will tell you this. That bottom wick, a lot of buy volume came in to support that level. So there are some Wi-Fi bulls out there, and they waited for the 786, and they smashed the buy.
Yeah, like very similar to what we're seeing in Uniswap right now. I think we were pretty close on this. I think we were calling for around like 13,000. So pretty good, happy about that. We came into this, if it was going to bounce anywhere, it was either up here, which, it did, but unfortunately, I didn't like this bounce because it rejected here at the throwback again, right? So I wasn't sold on this. I was pretty confident this was going to get broken. So it getting supported down here, this was really the last of the last. Otherwise, this thing would have been headed to 8K. So right now, again, this is the bearish throwback. I won't type it in, but this is the bearish throwback level. If we see price move above, 21.7, I think this will be a confirmation of a bottom. And again, yeah, if you're not long, there's no need to long right here. Just wait for a little dip. What we would be looking for in this case is if this can flip back to support, right? So at this level here, again, it was little bit of respect on the first time. Let's see if we can get more respect this time. Also, actually, I'm going to take this down to lower time frame.
Space DD just pointed out that CoinDesk reported Andre leaving shortly after Andre reported that he is not. And I think that's hilarious. CoinDesk has been off a little lately. They're good for your sort of standard every day. They nail most of the big news, but they fall for Twitter rumors and bullshit so often. What was it like last week? I think it was BitLord made an Arthur account and put out some kind of tweet basically telling off a whole bunch of people, and then they actually put that in an article, and it said right in the article, it was like BitLord. It's like amazing. It was like,
it's just a problem with journalism these days, that everybody's out there to get it out first, rather than sometimes taking the time to do some fact checking.
Get it right, yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad. But again, with Wi-Fi, this could form an inverted head and shoulders on the 1 hour. So keeping an eye on that. Again, I would like to see the 16.8 level retested if it holds there. I'd probably take this trade, to be honest, especially if I saw bullishness in the majors coming through still, and I'd be targeting this, 20. Whoopsies. I'd be targeting this 23, 24 level. It's the neckline as well, kind of where we dropped off here. Nice volume. Nice volume node. There we go. Nice volume node, and maybe we could take out these highs here as well, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's on Binance Futures, which is where I like to play right now. So definitely going to take a look at that. And that would be a 382 pullback to that right shoulder that you just outlined, which is my wheelhouse for chasing here. In fact, let's flip over to my screen real quick. I think we just tagged that. This is a 4 hour, but if you draw up from the lows, let me just get rid of this support box, kind of getting in the way. If you draw up from these lows, this is the key for me. Always watching the volume. When I was early in my trading in TA, people always talked about volume being the most important, and I never fully grasped that. But in a nutshell, I think the best way to try to describe it to you guys is that when you see something on the chart, the amount of volume that went in behind it or lack thereof can give you a signal as to whether that was real or not, or how much you should trust it or not. So one example we've seen recently, I talked about with Wan Chain, when it went to its new lows. I guess I might as well pull that up so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. But it went to new lows and there was just no sell volume. So was that a big significant dump? And really, in fact, let's see. Till now that I'm talking about it, I should point it out on the chart because not everyone saw that episode. But basically, this blew my mind. Actually, I was journaling about this pretty heavily because this is the first time I'd seen it. So you have a pretty well established low. Should set this up here. So you have some really nice low support here, right? This is all-time lows for Wanchain last April. And then it broke down. So it's like, okay, do I run to the exit? What do I think of this? This is like all-time lows and it's just negative price discovery. But if you look here, there was no volume, right? So a complete lack of interest or evidence here on the volume that there was just no sellers left. And so sure enough, when it reclaimed that level, it was a very bullish sign and it took off. So in the same way that you can use volume that way, the other way coming down here, yeah, price popped up, but look at the volume, right? So that is evidence because you can't really hide, whales can't hide when it comes to these order books unless they're going OTC, dark pools, all that. If they're buying, you're going to see it. And in this case, there was a lot of buy volume here. In fact, there was more buying on this candle than any day ever.
Wow.
On this 4 hour for YFI. That is significant, right? That means more buying took place at this level than any other day that this thing traded on Binance. That is a very significant signal. And so when I see things like that, then I get pretty interested in the pullbacks off of that move. And as Nick said, there is some potential here for an inverted head and shoulders, which is right here. So yeah, 382.5. And if I want to get real cheeky, and I think that there's some real bearishness, maybe like a strong pullback coming, I'd even be buying as low as here. And the reason I would do something like that is because then I can have a stop loss here. And even at these lows, I'd probably hide it just below this 786. So if these lows get swept, it'll probably just be like dink. And that's actually been working really well for me on some of these other shorts I've been taking. Not that this is a short, but you know what I mean? Like all these trades, if there's lows, but then there's like a fib level just below those, I'll hide below that fib. I don't know. I guess you're not in that theta short anymore. I've got to get my BinFuts open. BinFuts, here we go. Binance futures.
Still at that resistance level.
Is it up there? Yeah. So this is a trade Nick and I have been in. I've been messing around with some harmonics here. Let's see theta. I'm just going to use this example. This is pretty sick. Now we've been trading this quite a bit over the last few days. Had a short here from up in this level, as you guys can probably already tell. That's a short RLZ. So, and I mean, might as well. Okay, let's dive into this one. This has been my moneymaker this week. So on theta, again, looking around the market saying, oh, you know what? I think that some of the majors might roll over, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go to short them. They were at their lows, but look at this. This thing's been running really well. And if they roll over, this thing is going to come down because it's all about the shiny new toy. And there's probably more sellers baked into this price than buyers because it's gone up so much. So that's why I was looking at this chart. Now let's zoom in, find out specifically what I was looking at. So this bounce back up. We came up in tagged the 618. So drawn from those highs there, came right up here and then rolled over. Okay. So now I'm looking for the short. I'm up in that location. And this thing actually was so friendly. It gave a bunch of different opportunities to get in on this sweet spot and then ultimately rolled over. And where did it roll over to? Not some random spot, but right into the sweet spot. So there was the take profit exit. Now I closed it all through this area, little bits, little bits, little bits, and then actually reshorted it. Been scalping this thing like crazy this week. Reshorted it right here last night when I was on the line with Nick. And then actually it dumped while I was sleeping and I caught it here. Now this is why I brought this up, what I thought was interesting. Was it right here? But basically it came up to within, oh yes, it was right here. This here came to within 3 1,000ths of my stop loss right before it dumped. Okay. And that is the power of fibs. So instead of just arbitrarily parking my stop loss somewhere, and I didn't want to do it all the way up at the highs because that's just such a big gap that takes away the size that I can have on the position. And then I didn't want to just put it at these highs because that's where they get swept. So I hit it right here at 43.01, 74.301, and it came up to like basically 3/1000th of a cent below. So that's the power of fibs, and that's the rant that came from here, right? So get those lows, they get swept a lot. Get it under the underside of that fib, gives you that extra layer of protection. And I've got a few examples this week of that working really beautifully. And then obviously today this got washed out. But after I woke up this morning, I saw this W come in and Bitcoin was kind of running, and I closed out here for the last of my scalp for like $100. I don't know, but this thing is just, I mean, you guys see these fibs, right? We're talking about them every day. And I'm actually thinking about shifting away from more of the midterm swing trading. I mean, obviously we don't have the trend I want right now. And just playing these scalps. I mean, this stuff is pretty sick. So that's my rant on fib pong today.
Quickly, just while you were doing that, I was going through some charts, and I saw this one this guy posted. This is I've been saying, like, there's a huge credit contraction going on right now, and this macro stuff takes a long time to play out, guys. But the data is pretty clear. Look at this chart. Like, the amount of loans being issued it's not good. Like, people who need credit don't have access to it. People who do have, don't need credit have access to it. So it's.
Can you read that to us, the top line? It's getting covered a little bit by the header.
I should say it's consumer loans, credit cards, and other revolving plans, right? It's the point is that the new issuance has fallen off a cliff. People who need credit aren't getting access to it right now. The whole idea of QE, obviously to spur growth in the economy, but it's also to help banks. Like, banks should be lending right now to help spur growth. They're not, because the credit risks and default risks are so high, right? There's so many people unemployed, no wage growth, etc. Like, there's so much risk. So yeah, very interesting, and all this can create huge negative feedback loops. Like, I'm sure if this chart went back to 2008, you'd have something that looked very similar to this. Anytime there's a macro, uncertainty, this tends to happen. Banks reel in the risk. Anyways, that just kind of goes into the macro play of stuff. But I quickly wanted to look at the Solana chart, because I think this is another great setup in the making right now. We've come back down here. We've fulfilled this daily support test again. It's held. I was made actually a lower low, but bounced back really strongly. So what are we looking for now? Well, in order to remain bullish, with this recent swing, price definitely needs to be holding above these former range lows at 2.3. Ideally, this little support, this is only an hour chart, but this little support range here around like 2.4 holds, right? And very similarly to what I just pointed out in Adam and what we went over in the SPX charts over there, we could be looking at another low time frame inverted head and shoulders, right? This thing could dip all the way back to here, really, and still be intact. But I really, I'd rather just kind of holds here. Where would the target be at the resolution of this? Well, first, it's going to be this range here, right? So boom, little back. And then if it does get the momentum break we're looking for, this would, back up to the bearish throwback, the volume profile, $3 psychological whole number. So a lot of confluence around this area. This is what I'd be looking for. So as long as it holds above this, 2.3, 2.25 level, I like this structure. I like what it's doing, and keeping an eye on that one for sure. The other one, this one is, it's actually been more bullish than most. It's Ren.
Yes.
I'm super bull on Ren.
I want to start dollar cost averaging into Ren. I'm sick of trying to figure out when. I'm gonna actually apply a DCA to Ren.
Just gonna do it.
I'm doing it. I'm gonna buy some today. I'm just gonna buy like whatever, like a couple $100 worth. I'm gonna put it away. Not gonna look at it. Start my DCA, because this is just one that I keep hearing about, and I've missed it 2 times through the last 2 cycles. Sick of this shit.
Yeah.
Buying Ren.
I think if it breaks like this, 29, 30 cents level, we'll probably rally back up to like this 35. So that's like a 15% move. So that's the range highs. You would expect a little throwback. So what would a bullish squiggly look like at this point? Let's see. Okay, so we move up to the range highs here. Ideally, this turns support, right? So, rejection here, back here. If you saw that, boom, there's your confirmation, right? And odds are we'd rally up to this daily resistance level, kind of centering at 40 cents mark, 35 cents. So that's what I'm looking for in Ren. I just really like this one. Quickly take a look here at the BTC on Ethereum. You know, the wrapping continues to go. It's Christmas season. Everybody's wrapping. But Ren in particular, you know, it's starting to pick up again, right? So I like what I see here. It's high network activity. The team's doing stuff. I love it. And yeah, I think they're also doing third-party. I guess it's a smart contract, so not as big a thing. But these guys are doing audits on reserves, WBTC. So that's good. You know, it's their trusted solution rather than trustless. So that stuff needs to be there. Finally, I want to take a quick look at XAU here because it's broken up, right? Across multiple things. You got a trend line break. You know, I know it's not the prettiest thing, but it is a legitimate trend line break. We have a move over this bearish throwback level right now. So this, you know, it's looking really good. And obviously, this is so inversely correlated with the US dollar. But yeah, we're going to be looking for like that 1950 level to get tagged, or 1940 to 1950, and see how this goes. But again, with the US dollar, this thing is just getting melted. Where's it going to go? Well, probably back down to support here at 11.95 for a retest. It's, you know, it's really shitty that this structure got broken. It kind of confirms, you know, we went over this possibility. It kind of confirms the high time frame bearish structure currently right now, right? You know, it's made lows, rallied back up, hit the bearish throwback, and now it's violated that potential first confirmation of a bullish market structure. So we have to see what happens back here at support. If that fails, definitely expecting a sweep of those lows down there. If those fail, well, this thing's definitely headed back to the monthly lows, probably down here around 11.74. But that's what's crazy. Like, you know, US dollar, yeah, it can move down and still be high time frame bullish, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for there. And something that's been held up really well, and I think you brought this up before, RT, was that he isn't necessarily the best asset to short when everything else is going down as well. It kind of tends to, it's its own thing. So I really just look at its own market structure, and it's, you know, it's held the support level. I can change this from untested to confirmed.
Well, look, I mean, zoom out on that thing, because it was a great short last year. And I remember saying as much to my buddies who were trading at the time. I said, look, this thing like triple topped. I mean, against Bitcoin up at like 400,000 sats. And I was like, yeah, this thing's going down. I mean, she's done, boys. Put a fork in it. But it's just been trending down for like a year since then. And yeah, it put in a really strong breakout structure. Mm-hmm. And they've got Binance Smart Chain. They've got, you know, they're big. They're a big entity, and this is their gas. And yeah, you know, it was in that short RLZ, you know, this week. I was like, no, I'm not touching that short, not one bit. If anything, I'm dollar cost averaging into it, because they're not going anywhere anytime soon, as far as I can tell, unless the BitMEX. Well, yeah, knock on wood, because I got a lot of funds on there, but like, you know, unless they catch the BitMEX bug, they are they're safe as far as BizDev goes. They're going to be growing.
Agreed. So yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at there. And then I guess at MTA, same thing. You know,
yeah, what's MTA doing?
I fucking hate this chart, but you know, it's holding that support level. It's below all the resistance levels. So this is kind of, you know, kind of a no touch for me in these ranges here. I hate these Eiffel Tower fucking things so much.
Yeah, so I still haven't touched that one, but I know you've been charting it quite a bit, so I'm kind of waiting for that the breakout on it. You know, I'll probably get back in at some point. I own some from like $5 to $7, but
yeah, like crazy. I think it'd be, you know, I'd be bull on it if it were above $4.
Yeah, that's a good level.
Yeah.
Which is down from 5. Remember, there was a point last time I charted it, I was saying I want to see it above 5, and it got rejected there. But it has created that new level there at 4. So
the bar keeps getting lowered.
The bar is going down. Now I've got a couple here I want to look at. First of all, ZIL. We got Linus in here, who has been shorting a couple of these coins with me over the last weeks, and as far as I know, you caught this ZIL one with me. Now, zooming out on the daily, I don't love the shorting location as much. I think, you know, in a week when everything was kind of washing out, the reason I looked at this thing over the last week was because it had kind of come up to here, and I thought, okay, you know, that's a coin to look at shorting, because it hadn't been dumping to all hell. Now we caught as it looks, as it turns out, these were really pretty scalpy shorts because when you play, do that all the time. When you play up against the highs and you're into a lower time frame environment, you can get really sizey with your shorts, and then you don't need much of a move to make good money. So this is the first one I caught here, coming down off resistance, big rejection here, dumped it. That was actually the BitMEX news, the initial one. So the bounce up into there, I mean, that was just a no-brainer for me if I had seen that, which I did. Close it out in the RLZ of this range. Okay, on to the next one. Same kind of thing, but it was the New York Open here that came up into that RLZ. That would have been my short, but I missed it. I had some asks parked later, but the wick, as you can see following, did not. New trade, missed that one. Okay, so the question today is it setting up for another one? I think on this time frame, it definitely looks like it could be. We are at that resistance. We are parked just beneath the 618. Let's zoom in and see what else we can find on the indicators. So on this move up, we've got a high, a lower high, and a lower high on the MACD. The momentum is slowing. On the price, we have a high, a higher high, and a higher high. So there is divergence here, which is the second thing I'd look for. So first thing I'm looking for is the location, which is up against resistance. It is up in the short RLZ. And it's got some divergence as it comes up. Now, the RSI is not showing the same divergence. That doesn't negate the other one, but I like it more when they agree with each other. In this case, we're seeing a little bit more internal strength on the RSI. And that doesn't shock me because we're not really up into here yet. So what I would be looking for, since this has just made basically into overbought territory on the RSI, if we can get up into here, maybe even looking to sweep this high, cheeky little move there, and yet another low, yet another, get some divergence under that RSI. We're super overbought on the Willy. I could totally see this happening. Now, obviously, that flies in the face of general support resistance because we would be above that. So, this one's not shaping up as much as these two did here. Don't like it quite as much, but definitely, definitely on my short list. I mean, it's on my blue list. So I will keep an eye on that. I'm not going to be trading too much this weekend. Actually, it's Thanksgiving up here in Canada. And even though that's mostly canceled because of COVID, I will be spending it with some special people in my life. So I probably won't be doing any of these higher anxiety scalp trades where I want to be a little more attentive to the charts. I don't know about you guys, but I have a hard time focusing on the rest of my life when I'm in a big old scalp trade. So I'll probably just shut that down for the weekend, but I'll keep an eye, set some alerts, and maybe even just take on some lower leverage swing position type stuff if something is screaming at me in that sense, because I will be online. I just want to stay focused on the people that are in my life this weekend. Having said that, I mean, I'm don't care who they are. I'll be watching these majors because if we break out of this level, there's certain things that just take precedence over everything. But scalping on futures over the weekend, probably not. Now, look, real quick shout to XIO, because they have this new thing coming up that I want to talk about real quick called flash staking. We are getting to the top of the hour. So if you have any charts you really wanted to see or ideas you want to share that we can all benefit from, get them in now, do or die. But real quick, flash staking on XIO is a concept that basically you can borrow up front against a stake. So just say I take $10,000 and I stake it at 5% for a year. Presumably, I will be paid that 5% over the course of the year, as does all staking and loans work. Flash staking is where you lock those funds for the year and you get the entire amount of interest that you're going to be paid up front. So I take that 10,000, I stake it on the XIO flash staking network, and instead of getting 5% paid out over a year, I actually just get the whole $500 right up front, and then my money's just locked for that year. And then I think if you want to unlock it early, you just have to pay a penalty, essentially giving that back. So your funds aren't entirely locked anyways. So it's a pretty cool idea. And the reason I would bring that up is that they're also sitting down here in an interesting spot after sort of like a full Elliott wave cycle earlier this year. Let me get a color on there. You can see, I mean, you sort of had your 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. So they've finished a cycle. They're going to be chopping around down here, and sometime in the next month or so, I think they're going to be kicking off this fairly innovative product. So pretty excited to see how that goes, and I will be keeping a close eye on the XIO chart. Oh, Space DD is reaching out to you, Nick. Asked you to check your messages. So you can check in with him a little later. And with that, I think we'll flip back to cameras as it is Friday afternoon and we're getting close to the end of the day here over at Hxro Labs. Let's flip back. Yeah, back to the main screen. All right. So thanks for coming out today, guys. Really appreciate that. Let's see how the stimulus relief package, that is a big catalyst to keep an eye on. Another one is the Mt. Gox hearing. I believe, what is that, the 15th, Nick? As far as dates to pay attention to? I'm not hearing Nick. Might be muted.
Yeah, you're either going to get an extension on the 15th of the, or an actual distribution date.
Yeah. And just real quick, we should have dove into that a little more. Basically, there is a settlement for the Mt. Gox claims, all the people that lost money, and having spoken to one of my buddies that I worked with actually outside of crypto, he said he actually had some Bitcoin locked up in there, and I mean it's worth a significant amount now based on what he had at the time. I think it was like a average cost basis of around $400 to $600, and he's going to be getting back a certain amount that'll be worth closer to $50K for him. And his sentiment was like, yeah, of course I'm going to sell that because that's a huge account. Pay off this, I can do that account. So you have to understand that is probably now no matter how you 15. We're going to find out if and when that distribution date will be set. And one thing I want to speculate on is if we find out when that day is, there's the opposite of buy the rumor, sell the news. Right? Buy the rumor is like, this thing's really exciting, so the price is going to ride up into the event, as if on that event, price is suddenly going to shoot up. Often is the case. Mainnet comes, partnership comes, whatever the new thing is, and then the price just sells off, and that was the trade. We may see, and I'm really excited about this because it'll be fun to trade and probably fairly lucrative. We may see the opposite of that, which is sell the rumor, buy the news, which is sort of what happened with Binance with the US ban. It was really bearish into the date. And then on the date, it kind of bounced up and you got a nice trade there. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that for you guys. So stay tuned with us and we will watch and learn from the Gox settlement stuff. What's going to happen to that? It could be, even if they say there's a date, it could be like March or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing on my calendar as far as fundamentals go. And other than that, have a wonderful weekend. If you're Canadian, happy Thanksgiving. If you're not, happy weekend. And whatever you do, always play from a position of strength.
Have a good week.